Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week. And well, what a week it has been. This is exciting. It's really exciting for one reason because I don't have a limit today. So we'll go as long as we want to. That's all cool and dandy. I also have a bunch of stuff about December I want to talk about. Those of you, though, who have been looking at the schedule over on the Facebook page, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So there's going to be a lot of really interesting stuff coming, in the month of December, because every December I like to do something for the holidays. So what we're going to do this year is, we're going to give away, in addition to the 5 free memberships that we give away on the first Sunday, we're going to give away 12 additional memberships. And they're going to coincide with not the official 12 days of Christmas, but the 12-day lead up to Christmas. So that's going to be fantastic. Now, here's the interesting thing. I can't just give away a membership because I have to be in a live stream to give away a membership. So you guys are getting 12 straight days of live streams in December. Holy banana bread. That's going to be awesome. And here's what I've decided as I thought, here's the beautiful thing. I thought, when would be the perfect time to do it? Well, we're going to do it for market close. So we're going to do, I believe it starts on the 13th of December. From the 13th of December to the 24th of December, we're going to be coming on live at about 10 minutes to 4. Well, 10 minutes to 4 Eastern. And we're going to be there all the way through the market close. We'll take a look at some of the things that happened in that day. And we'll give away the free membership. We'll chat. We'll hang out. It's going to be really, really kind of cool. I'm going to be very busy, but that's okay. I don't mind it. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So I've been sort of looking at and planning some of the things that we can push in there. So I think that's going to be really, 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 really great. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I want to make sure anybody here who is thinking about coming and winning a free membership, well, I'm going to drop one right now because here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to look at, and it takes a second, I think, for it to process. I've just hit the buttons to get this processed for you guys. There it is. So that little green box that pops up that says, Mountain Finance gifted one Mountain Finance membership. If underneath it, you see this little thing that says, enable gifting on the channel, you want to make sure that's on. If you don't see it, then you probably already have it on. But if you do see a little prompt underneath it, turn that on. So that way there, even if you're not there, like let's say, a lot of people have jobs, right? So you may not be able to be live, but that way there you can still win, which is fantastic. And how does it work? I think YouTube is not super transparent, but I think the more active you are on the channel, the more your chances are of actually winning that membership. So right now, the one that we just dropped, everybody's saying congrats, Mario, because Mario Batista, you won the free membership. So congratulations on that. When you do win a membership or you buy a membership, whatever, you can go back and look at all of the membership content from the past. Now, coming up on Monday is actually our channel membership choice video. That is supposed to be one that they choose. Now, here's the funny thing. I put out the vote for them, and I go to check it last night, and I'm like, holy banana bread, it went out to everybody. I did still throw another one up for them just so that they could get their vote. Luckily, you guys, everybody's vote was the same as the channel membership vote. So the video that's going to drop on Tuesday is all about the different fundamentals, how I use them, how they fit into the big picture when I'm looking at, a new stock, for example. So I think that's going to be really awesome. I can't wait to see that. Whew. All right. Now this is kind of a crazy day. So many people started talking before we even began. So let's quickly get through those of you who are here. And thank you, of course, for being here. And also a huge thank you to those of you who watch this at home well, I guess you all watch at home who watch this on the replay at home. You guys rock, and you guys make up about 75% of my total viewership. So a big thumbs up for you guys too. Make sure as well that you guys have that membership thing on, because I'd like to see all of the most active people become members by the end of December. All right. So we have Jonathan Montgomery in the house. Hi, Jonathan. And Ian is in here. Last week he was late, but now he's way early. Jonathan says, join the club. That happens a lot. But that's why we got the replay. So if you miss it, you got the replay. You're all covered either way. Wayne says, I'm a regular early bird trading the pre-market open. Awesome. And we got Enid in there. Hello, Enid. I see Enid all the time over on Blossom. So any of you guys who don't know about Blossom, by the way, is the Canadian social media network for, well, people into finance, people into stock market, people like us. It's a great place to just sort of connect, talk, get ideas for different stocks, and sometimes just share your portfolio if you want to and get feedback on it. There's just so much you can do over there. If you're not yet on Blossom, down below, there's a link that will take you over there. Download the app, sign up. It's completely free. Hook up with me over there because I would love to follow you right back. All right. Sophie's in the house. She says, hey, crew. And we got Ablash in here going, good afternoon. And Lisa is in here with hello, everyone. And we got change to spare. Taps foot impatiently. Well, we're there. We started it. So hopefully that's all right there for you. And Ablash says, smash the like button. Yeah, absolutely. Be sure to hit that like button. Turn it a nice little blue. That lets people know that we're up and live and we're running. There might be somebody just hanging around on YouTube right now who's got nothing to do. And maybe you hitting the like button might send me over to them. And then they can come and they can sort of muse at what we're doing here today. And Mario saying 12 free memberships. Yeah, absolutely. December is going to be so awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Ian says, that's a nice idea, but I'm going to be at work. Yeah, but you'll still have the replay, Ian. So you can always watch the replay, and you can still win. So that is awesome. And more congratulations to Mario, who won a free membership today. And Bleak says, hey. Yeah, there he is. There's Mario. Yay, baby. Look at that. He's got that nice highlighted name. That's one of the other neat things, too. You're no longer gray once you're a channel member. And Lisa's on Blossom. I hope you're following me, Lisa. And if I'm not following you, give me a poke over there and let me know, and I will definitely follow you right back. Ian says, I will check out Blossom after this. Hello. And I'm saying hello to John Waller, who's in the house as well. Whew, there we go. Caught up. You guys are just absolutely typing at the speed of light today. So that is pretty darn awesome. Now, news-wise, believe it or not, it was kind of a slow news week, but at the same time, some of the news that did hit was pretty darn big. So we got lots of news to do for today. Let's get on to the news. Let's get that started. I will turn on this thing. So the OpenAI shuffle. So I'm sure by now you guys have all heard about everything going on with OpenAI. So good old Sam Altman, and this started last weekend. He was fired from OpenAI. Microsoft then came along and offered him a job. And then OpenAI came back and said, no, we're going to rehire him. Well, apparently a lot of the people who work at OpenAI threatened to leave as well. So we had a very interesting time over there. Now, because the fact that he's come back, it certainly means that in a way, he's kind of more powerful than he was before. And he's in a situation as well where nobody knows exactly why he was fired, but the board, the 3-member board that fired him, they're all gone now. They're no longer have any oversight over top of him. And it's believed that they have a more conservative view than he does when it comes to the speed of AI development. And that's kind of where the whole issues came in. Now, there's also this other thing that sort of popped up. There's been a letter. Reuters, they're the ones who came up with it. Basically, it was a letter saying that OpenAI have actually found an AI, have found a, I don't want to say an AI, but they have been able to perfect their AI doing basic mathematics. So basically grade 5 level mathematics. This is huge because right now with a language model, what it can do is it can predict text. So it can predict what, when you ask it a question, it takes what you have and it sort of goes, okay, you're going to do the thing. Uh, this is normally the type of answer that would come. So if you ask it about chocolate, it will, it'll look up things connected to chocolate, and that's how it will sort of create and formulate its answer. And it looks brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, but there can be mistakes, and a lot of these mistakes have to do with the fact that if it has something that it has to sort of think on its own, it runs into these issues. Now, if we have an AI that can, for example, do math all on its own and can solve new math problems, that becomes, there's ramifications to that. Because if you think about it, when it comes to the fact that almost everything on the internet's encrypted, that means that we've got an AI that, can move almost infinitely fast. And think of how fast it's going to be able to start just tearing down encryption. So that's where the big issue comes with. So when you've heard in the news people saying things like it could have huge society ramifications, that's kind of where they're hinting at. So I don't think we have to worry too much. Now, the model that they were talking about, I think they're calling it Q star. So we'll have to sort of see how that all turns out. But it is a move in the direction that would give us a lot more accuracy when it comes to AI. And I find for the most part, honestly, I mean, anytime I ask AI to do something for me, I do fact check it. And I find lately there's really not any errors. I'm not finding the errors. I probably 6 months ago, I would get some kind of funky stuff sometimes back. But now I'm finding it is actually getting a little bit better, and it's kind of cool. Interestingly enough, the thumbnail on today's video, that robot doing math, 100% AI generated, just to be upfront with that. I mean, that's beautiful because, I mean, I know that it would take me a long time to create an image of that caliber. And now I can just ask AI to do it and it will give it to me like pretty much right away. So it is kind of really, really, really interesting. So that is kind of what's been going on with OpenAI. Microsoft loves it because right now they're in a position that they own about 49% of OpenAI's value. And now they're all in line. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that progresses. I think it will progress quite a bit because I know that Altman, he's not quite as what's the word? He's not as conservative when it comes to moving AI forward, and he will push the envelope when it comes to safety. Even though he does believe in regulations on AI, but he's the person who's going to move it ahead a bit faster. So those of you who, of course, are not comfortable with AI right now, you will probably be like, oh, darn, maybe he's going to push it a bit too far, too fast. But we're a long way from AI getting to a point where it's ever going to be like a real threat to humanity or anything of that nature. And I'm sure we will have regulations and different safety checks put in before that we ever get there. I mean, but then again, I mean, if it does happen and it happens fast and we can't tell that it happens and it happens before we even get regulations in, that could be a bad thing. But I'm okay with it right now. I think we still have a really long way to go before we have to worry too much about that. All right. Mario says, I'm green now. Thanks for the membership. Yeah, absolutely. Jill said, so it's going to be 13 days of live stream because you're doing your usual one on the 25th. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, technically there's that extra live stream because I've got Christmas Day. I do a live stream. So that's going to continue. Now the live stream on Christmas Day, it's in the morning because I got commitments Christmas Day afternoon, but in the morning I'm here with you guys. And here's the funny thing. This will be the third Christmas Day. So this will be our third annual Christmas Day live stream. The first year when I started the channel and Christmas was coming up, I was like, I'm going to do a Christmas Day live stream. Nobody's going to show up, but I'm going to do it. Um, and I was really surprised at how many people did show up. I was just like, wow. And it was actually very popular. It actually, I think right now it's like in the top 5 most viewed live streams I've ever done. So that's kind of cool. But part of it too is I did cover some news. There was some breaking news on Canoe. So that was in that live stream as well. So I think Canoe helped it become much more popular, but we're going to keep doing it. We did it last year and it was a great stream, and we're doing it again this year. So it will be awesome. Let's see. Abalash says scariest thing will be if AI starts investing and trading on the stock market. Abalash, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it already is. This is happening. There's a lot of institutional firms, institutional investors that actually do use AI. It's not doing it on its own. Like they're programming what they're looking for, but AI can scan the market better than we can. It can see trends before we can, and take advantage of them. So it's already happening. So keep that in mind. It's one of these things like when it comes to short-term trading, so day trading and even swing trading, you are going to be competing more and more against AI when you're doing these things. And it could get to a point where it might even be infeasible to be doing things like day trading when AI is pretty much controlling the market. So we'll have to see how that all is going to unravel as we get there. So it could be pretty interesting. And Lisa says, glad you will be doing it in the morning. Yeah, absolutely. So I believe it's 10 a.m. Eastern time that stream will be going. So those of you on the West Coast, that's like what? That's like 7 a.m. in the morning. It's like, get up, watch it while you wait for everybody else to get up and open gifts. I don't know how long it will go. I think most of them have gone about an hour to an hour and a half. So I think they'll be pretty darn fun. All right. So another big thing in the news that we had this week was, of course, the fall economic statement. That was dropped. Now, oh dear, dear, dear. So there's basically about 20.8 billion in spending that's put over the next 6 years. But we have to look at the fact that we have another election in 2025. So some of that spending might actually get kiboshed by the new government coming in. We'll have to see how that works out. The main focus areas on the economic statement were, of course, on affordable housing, clean energy transition, consideration of global and Canadian economic slow turn, the high interest rates, and inflation. So those are all of the areas that they tried their best to focus on. When it comes to taxes, there were no changes proposed to personal or corporate income tax rates, which is great. Good to see. Continuation of previously announced measures, including changes to the alternative minimum tax. So there were a few little changes. Affordable housing, this is kind of where they're looking at. There were proposals, of course, to crack down further on the whole short-term rental situation that we've covered before. So that's a big theme that's coming through. Let's see. They were also looking at denial of income tax deductions for expenses incurred in prohibited or non-compliant short-term rental operations. So that's once again tying back into the short-term rentals, making the taxes a little bit harder. There was also going to be $50 million in funding over 3 years for enforcing this. So we'll have to see how that works. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that all works out. There was also some stuff on underused housing tax, so UHT. So annual 1% tax on vacant. So we're looking at taxing the vacant housing, and that makes sense because where we have a housing shortage, we don't need houses just sitting there vacant. So an annual 1% tax on vacant or underused residential real estate owned by non-resident, non-Canadians, and that's effective. It's actually backdated to January 1st of 2022. So that's kind of interesting there. They've also looked at filing relief for specified Canadian corporations, partnerships, and trusts, reduction in minimum penalties for non-filing. So a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on here. There was for the mortgage, the Canadian Mortgage Charter, there was an introduction of a charter to regulate financial institutions' support for Canadians facing temporary financial stress due to high interest rates. So a little bit of relief towards the interest rates there. Let's see here. What else do they have in here? There were a few other interesting measures for individuals. They're looking at exemption of HST and or GST on psychotherapy and counseling. They're also looking at the introduction of a 15-week EI adoption benefit, additional EI benefits for seasonal workers. That's a good thing. A new paid leave for workers experiencing pregnancy loss. So, once again, that's another neat little thing. All in all, I think our this new economic update pretty much was mostly just spending. I know the right is not happy. Polyev is saying it's basically a whole bunch more inflationary spending, so we'll have to see. We are going to talk a little bit more about inflation. Actually, well, we'll talk about inflation right now. Let me pop over to inflation. There we go. Moved the thingamabobber. So we did have some Canadian inflation information came out. So our CPI, Canada's inflation slowed to 3.1% in October, which is great. So it dropped, well, in September it was at 3.8%. So it did drop from that to 3.1%. And that 3.1% is based year over year from the previous September, but that's definitely good. Now, the deceleration was largely a result of the lower prices in gas. Because if you remember last week, we talked about that in the States. The lower prices of gas really helped drive a reduction in costs overall. And that's the same here. Now, going upwise, holy banana bread. There were increases in, of course, mortgages, mortgage interest costs, groceries, and rent. Now, on the bright side, this whole drop down to 3.1% pretty much guarantees that the current pause on the rate hikes is going to stay paused because we do have a meeting on, I think it's December 6th. Now, some of the things, just to give you an idea of things that fell, gas fell about 7.8%. So that's fantastic. Groceries, though, 5.4% increase. And when I say this, it's not 5.4% price increase over this month. This is the year over year. So we're up 5.4% in groceries compared to October of last year. So just sort of keep this in perspective. General services went up about 4.6%. Travel overall went up 11.3%, which is interesting because a lot of airlines have been trying to pull some of their prices down, but that is still interesting. Rent went up 8.2%. And depending on where you live, there's a wide array here. If you lived in Nova Scotia, you were looking at a 14.6% rise in rent between last year and this year. So that's huge. So yeah, not a good thing at all when it comes to rent. Now, I don't know if any of you guys are renters or not, but if you are renters, it's kind of a situation that people don't want to even if you've got a crappy rental right now, you really don't want to move because you're going to end up paying tooth and, hand and fist, over hand and fist, or arm and leg for a new rental. It's just craziness out there. I also saw a story as well about a lot of seniors who normally would be downsizing their homes are not doing so because, well, finding that new home, they're going to end up losing so much. They're going to end up paying so much more. So it's just come down to the whole thing that people are keeping their old houses. People are staying where they maybe don't want to. It's a little bit of all of this. So we'll have to sort of see. Now, what are you guys are doing? Are you guys renters? Do you guys have your own homes? How is that looking for you guys? Are you one of these people who's in a place where you'd like to move, but because of the high rents, the high interest rates, it's just, you're just like, no, I'm going to wait. So it'd be interesting. Hit me up in chat if you guys are in that situation. All right. Now, this is a very, very interesting. We're flying through these news. I love it. It's always good to get these out of the way because then we can just continually chat about whatever Northvolt. So Northvolt is it's a battery making company over in Sweden. They have developed a sodium ion battery, which is free of, well, it's free of all of the critical metals that we currently use in batteries. So we're talking about that lithium. So it is it's a lithium free battery. And here's the interesting thing. They have built this battery. It produces a level of energy that's nearly on par with the lithium batteries. And that's a feat that a lot of people have been trying to do up to now. And it looks like they may be the first to actually have done it. So sodium ion batteries, they're cheaper, they're safer than the lithium batteries. They don't rely on any of these extra metals, so they don't need lithium, they don't need cobalt, they don't need nickel, and of course that means that that hurts China, but it kind of hurts Canada too, because we also have a lot of lithium here. Now keep in mind, they you know they have to still broad scale this, so it's going to take probably a decade to get this up and running. So it doesn't mean that you should run out tomorrow and sell all of your lithium stocks. I think they're still going to be valuable for some time, but this is just one of these things to sort of keep your eye on. So when you're thinking long term, maybe that demand for lithium, if this takes off, maybe that demand for lithium won't be there in 10 years. So you have to sort of pay attention to things like this, but certainly don't jump the gun on something like this. Oh, here we are. Banana bread for life, says 9. Absolutely. Jackie's in the house. I own a condo. Would like to sell and rent, but it's not worth it now with rent so high. Yeah, that's exactly the situation I think a lot of people are in. It kind of sucks. All right. Chad says, good day, all. Hello, Chad. Great to see you here. And Ian is saying, I'm thinking about selling my house. I could make enough money in dividends to pay rent, plus have leftovers, have more freedom. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can understand that. But yeah, it's just the whole new problem is, though, and you got to be careful with this, is if you are thinking of selling, make sure you have a place to go to first. I have heard horror stories of people who sold their house and didn't realize that the vacancy rates were so low that they couldn't get a place to rent. And all of a sudden, they're in a situation where they have to live in a tent. There's definitely stories. And if you ever look at these tent cities, it's just absolutely crazy. Mary's in the house. Hello, Mary. Good to see you. And Chad says, just sell, move to a cheaper province, and then you both can do, both invest and own a cheaper place to live. Absolutely. Sometimes I feel like Chad works for the province of Saskatchewan as come live here. Everything is great. And he's not wrong, though. That's the fun thing, too. If you can handle the cold, and we're all Canadians, so we probably can on some level, and you're looking for a beautiful place to live where property is still semi-affordable, Saskatchewan is not a bad option. Absolutely isn't. Ian says, I'm fortunate that I can go back to the family farm. Oh, awesome. There you go. That's what you want, is you want a place that you can go. Chad says, grain or cattle? Oh, for the family farm. Absolutely. I always thought it would be fun to own a farm. Other than the fact that it would probably work me to the bone, but the whole thought of owning a family farm, I think, would be really, 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 really kind of cool. All right, let's move to that next story. Move the ticker along here. So retail still strong. We had retail reports that came out on Friday, and Statistics Canada is saying that the retail sales climbed 0.6% in September, while advanced estimates have predicted a 0.8% growth in October. So we are looking at retail going up, but this is really interesting. This did exceed what economists were expected, and it has been the biggest jump since about April. But here's the thing. This was all because of car and car parts. So cars and parts dealers, they led the growth in September. They climbed 1.5%. while retail sales, excluding autos, only rose 0.2%. So, in a sense, we didn't beat expectations if you remove the cars and car parts from that equation. So, the underlying strength, it's not really there. Um, so, especially, like I said, if you remove cars, auto parts, gasoline, all that fun stuff out, we actually did see a small decline in core retail sales. And, it has been relatively weak for some time. So, it's one of these things they love to say, ooh, sales are strong. But when it's only in one sector that's sort of pulling everybody else along, you got to take that with a grain of salt. All right. Now that brings us to the Bank of Canada. And just one second here. Chad said something. Saskatchewan here too, Ian. Very, very cheap, this province compared to Ontario. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Ian says, I have a car collection and part pricing is crazy. Takes the fun out of it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing. Like cars right now are so expensive. And, for me being someone who just recently got my driver's license, I'm like, I'd love to go buy a car, but right now they're just outrageous. So it's going to be one of these situations where, maybe I'll look in the spring, but I don't know. I'm going to wait probably till some prices get at least level out a little bit. It's hard to say. It's really just hard to say what I'm going to do with that. All right. A normal amount of demand. So this here all goes back to Tiff Macklin. So the big head honcho over there at the Bank of Canada, he had a talk this week in New Brunswick. And he says that the excess demand that was fueling inflation has now gone out of the economy, which is great news. That's very good news. He says that we expect, and these are his exact quotes. He said, we expect the economy to remain weak for the next few quarters, which means more downward pressure on inflation is in the pipeline. In short, the excess demand in the economy that made it too easy to raise prices is now gone. So this is good. This is really, really good. With, of course, December 6th coming up and that next rate hike, I would, if they were to hike a rate again, I'm at the point now, I don't think we're even going to see any more rate hikes. I thought we might see one in the new year, but these inflation numbers are looking much better. So I think we're done. And now I think we're at a point where we need to start thinking, when are they going to cut the rate? I still don't think. If they do, my gut says 2025, but there could be a chance if these numbers keep staying really, really good, there could be a chance that we could see a rate cut even at the very end of 2024. But we'll have to see. Don't get your hopes up yet. We'll have to see how this all works out. But right now, it's not looking too bad. All right, we're almost through the news, guys. So start throwing questions out there. Let's jump over to the next one. This is an exciting one. So they released the information for our TFSAs. So our TFSA contribution limit, it goes up every year. And this year, so starting on January 1st, 2024, it's going up by $7,000. This is the second largest raise ever. Now, before you get too excited, it's because of inflation. So the TFSA contribution limits, the way they calculate them is they have a base of 5,000 indexed to inflation and then rounded to the nearest 500. So they've been doing that since, what was it? They were formed in 2009 and they had a few bigger hikes towards the beginning. But once they stabled out, I don't even know what year it was that they're calculating this on. But that's basically how they do calculate it. Last year, there was an increase. I think it was $6,500. And this actually marks the second year in a row, second year in a row. This is the second year in a row of an increase in the amount because it was 6,000 for the longest time before that. So, but once again, this is all inflation that has really pushed it up. So we'll have to see what we get next year. I have a feeling, though, because inflation will come down, but it's not going to be deflationary. So we'll probably be looking at, I bet you will see another 7,000 or 7,500 next year. But for now, another 7,000. So those of you who are already maxed, you got, you can start planning for how you're going to spend that $7,000 contribution room space to get that all packed up. All right. This is fantastic. We are through the we're through the regular news. We still got the crypto. I got a couple stories on crypto for you guys. So let's take a look here. And 9 says, whoops, pull this up. There we go. They could cut rates if there is a financial crisis. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That could be a situation. Like if we fall into a full-on recession, and it's a good possibility, like we are technically in a recession, and we have GDP numbers coming out this week as well. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So that could be a situation. Chad says banks have set away billions for credit default, so I don't think there will be one. So that is true. And it's not that the banks have set away. A lot of the regulatory boards that control the banks have basically said, you have to set away this money for these defaults because these defaults are coming. There's no way around it. You're going to have it no matter what you do. Ian says, I'm thinking 7K of Canoe in the TFSA would be good. Well, that's a good chunk of dividends coming back at you. That's for sure. But here's the thing. And this is kind of one of those things too. I love Canoe and everything, but sometimes I look at a TFSA. If I'm up towards a limit, I'm like, oh, maybe what I'll do is I'll put some growth superstar in there first and take that extra 7,000 room and see if I can grow it to 8,000, as we move towards the toward the bull market, hopefully. So that's just one thought I have. Let's see. Change to Spare says I have a fairly large sum I want to put into my TFSA. It won't max out my contribution room. Is there any reason I should wait until the new year to contribute that sum? No. There's absolutely no reason for it at all. Here's the other thing too. Keep in mind too, if you have pulled out money from your TFSA this year, so let's say, for example, you pulled out $5,000 because you needed it for an emergency. Well, on January 1st, you're getting that 7,000, but you're also getting that 5,000 back. So that's the nice thing about the TFSA. So in that direction, it works and it becomes kind of significant. But when it comes to putting your money in, if you have the room, there's no need. There's never any necessary need to wait unless you're sort of a person who's waiting because you want to play the market a specific way. But even then, you don't have to buy stocks immediately. You can still throw the cash into it and then sort of, sit there with your sum and say, okay, well, I'm going to set up a DCA on this. So dollar cost average on that. That's a good way to sort of handle it as well. And Chad says, I'd do it sooner rather than later, earn some good dividends. And there's another option right there as well. Especially if you're a passive income investor, holy banana bread, you might as well start getting your dividends now opposed to later. And whoops, and Chad says, and more room in the TFSA in a couple of months. And Change says, thanks. All right. So what do we got going on in crypto? Yeah, we got a few things going on. So there we go. We'll just move to the crypto thing. So one of the big news articles this week is all about Binance. So Binance is set to pay $4.3 billion after they pled guilty to money laundering charges. So the SEO, CZ Zhao, is going to step down. Apparently, he's not allowed to step back in for 2 years. So after 2 years, he couldn't step in, but he's banned for 2 years for being the CEO. Now, the U.S. Department of Justice, they've been investigating Binance for a long time. 2020, I think the investigation began. And they're looking at, well, they basically unveiled a whole whack of financial crimes committed by the firm. Most notably, Binance allowed the trading of funds from sanctioned countries. Yikes. That's never good. Now, in addition to this, the SEC still has charges that they're planning to lay against Binance. So as well, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission as well has some charges. I don't know the exact details of those. But the nice thing is that this settlement actually allows Binance to keep operating. So they're going to be business as usual, other than the fact that, well, they kind of lost a whole chunk of money. So they're going to be down $4.3 billion out of their coffers. So we'll have to see how that all turns out. Now, another kind of interesting news. Do you guys remember back when Bitcoin was doing all of its, sorry, let me just pull that off. There we go. When Bitcoin was doing all of its all-time highs and everybody was all excited, you had this guy called Plan B who was coming up and saying, okay, Bitcoin's going to hit this amount by this date. And he was hitting all the dates up until the end. And then everything fell apart, of course. But he's back again, Plan B. And also another person, Marcus Thierlin, who's the head of research at Maxiport. They're both predicting a big rise in the price of Bitcoin. And Thierlin is actually claiming that there's about an 80% chance that Bitcoin is going to break above 40K into December, and it's going to stay there. It's not coming back down, according to him. So we'll have to sort of see how that all turns out. So that's kind of a neat little thing. Now let me give me a second here. I'm just going to turn off the crypto rounds because that's all I have on the news. We do have some of the next week stuff. So next week, what's going on Canada-wise? On Thursday, November 30th, we do have the GDP. So that's something to look out for. And we also have some jobs data that's going to drop on December 1st. So these will be the last things that the Bank of Canada can look at before their decision hike the following week on the 6th. The U.S., on Wednesday, the 29th, their GDP for Q3 is dropping as well. This will be the first revision. So it's going to be interesting. Now, earnings-wise, though, holy banana bread, it's bank earnings week coming up. So we got all of the banks, all of the big six, and EQ as well. So they're all going to be dropping their earnings. We'll have to take a look and see how they are. I'm not super optimistic on any of them particularly, but one company I am a little more optimistic on is Alimentation Couche-Tard. Their earnings are dropping this week, as so is Skidoo. And I think Skidoo actually had a pretty good quarter as well. So we got a few different earnings that are going to drop. And we're going to, we'll check it out. We'll see how this all is going to look. Woo! There we go. We got through all of that. That's fantastic. All right. Let me pull up here. Visvin says, any opinion on the Scotiabank data saying we're paying 2% more interest than would be necessary due to government spending? And the Bank of Canada reported that they can't bring the rate down. Same reason. Yeah, the government is spending a lot. And we're, unfortunately, as we head towards an election, and we have a situation where the government is very, very, very far down in the polls, they're probably going to do what most governments do. They try to buy votes. So we're probably going to see more spending. I think until there's a change in the government, we're not going to see that come down too much. But at the same time, they also realize they do have to focus on inflation. They can't let it get too much further out of control. But will they come to that realization that they really have to stop the spending? It's really hard to say. But I would agree that right now we're probably paying 2% more interest than would be necessary. And that is, of course, yeah. I think a former Bank of Canada, not a Bank of Canada, but a former liberal finance minister said that a lot of times it's like the government has one pedal on the gas while the Bank of Canada has a pedal on the brakes, and it's just not really working out that well. So yeah, I would agree. Hopefully, as we move forward, the government gets this reined in a little bit more, because the government can't be completely clueless, and you could argue that they might be, but I think they have to sort of look at the math. Like, one of the things that annoys me the most about politics in Canada, and probably everywhere else, is that everybody has a party line. So when you go into an interview, you get, I could ask, let's just say, for example, if I was a Conservative member of Parliament and I asked a Liberal about some fiscal policy, and they're not even going to answer the question I asked. They're going to basically have their talking points, and they're just going to reiterate them over and over again. And it goes the other way too. I don't want to. I'm not picking on the liberals. If a liberal asks a conservative something, they will have their talking points, and that kind of works that way. And I've actually seen in some situations, like I think there was I think the last election, some of the conservative leader at that time, what was his name, O'Doul or whatever. I'm pretty sure I messed it up. I don't know why I can't remember his name, but he was being asked specific questions, and instead of actually addressing any of the questions he was asking, he just went with party lines over and over again. And sometimes that doesn't work. I think I would love to see politics where you get a politician who actually answers what they're being asked. I think that would be fantastic. But so far, we have not seen that. And that's what annoys me the most about politics. So I kind of, when it comes to who am I going to vote for, I'm going to look and see what the policies are. I'm going to see what they actually say they're going to do. And then I'm going to evaluate, can they actually do what they're going to say? So, for example, with this next election, what the liberals are going to promise, there's no chance that they're probably going to pull it off. Even if they did somehow win the election, there's probably very little chance. They know that their days are limited because it's very hard to hold office for, more than 10 years. It's almost a crazy level of holding office. So there's going to be a change of the guard. And of course, in that the first 4 years of the Conservatives, they're going to do as much as they can to try to keep as many promises as they can, because they're going to use that to basically leapfrog into the next 4 years. Then, of course, once you've gotten that 8 years in or so, that's when you're probably going to see another change of the guard. So that tends to work that way. Every 10 years or so, we go from liberal to conservative to liberal to conservative, back and forth. It's just the way it goes, and you kind of have to sort of judge things that way. All right. And Chad says, yeah, I like crypto, and with the spot ETF coming to the moon. Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't think we're going to see that spot ETF before the end of the year for sure. It really boils down to, when are we going to see it? I definitely think we'll see it in 2024. And we also have the halvening coming in 2024. So I think there's going to be some opportunity to make money on Bitcoin if you're into Bitcoin for sure. And when Bitcoin does really, really well, so does the rest of crypto. They all sort of ride up that same wave. So keep that in mind. It's just one of these things. If you're into other coins, altcoins, things like that, they're going to have a chance where they come up as well. Let's see. Whoops, I missed this one. Political pandering, a tale as old as time. Optics more than good economic decisions. Sometimes, yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Chat says, always government overspending, overpaid if you ask me. Yeah, I think it's kind of funny. I think that we have too much government, too much bureaucracy. And that all costs a lot. And yeah, I think we spend way too much on government per se. I also think I don't like the idea of the Senate being sort of appointed for life. I think our Senate should also be elected. Just, if you ask me, you may not have to have like a 4-year term. You could even do like an 8 or 10-year term or something like that. But I think there still needs to be some kind of an election process in there, so that there's still, a little bit of a changing of the guard in the Senate as well, opposed to the way it is now. Like, somebody serves until their health won't either their health won't allow them to serve anymore, or they actually pass on. So yeah, that's never a good thing there. Vincent says, liberals are already spending out a social media blitz. People are flooding my feeds about UBI. That's their last-ditch effort to garner votes. Yeah, it's kind of one of these interesting things. UBI is one of these things that, yeah, we need it eventually. We don't need it now. Someday, as AI becomes more and more, and as we get autonomous robots doing a lot of the jobs, there may be a need for it. But you also have to keep in mind, as society changes, as technology changes, new jobs happen. So if you go back to the 1900s with automobiles coming in, um, it's not a situation where all of a sudden all of those people who used to mend horseshoes and things like that. It's not a situation where they just we needed to give them a UBI. They just learned new skills. They learned how to work on cars, or they learned other things. So you have to adapt as technology jobs change. If you even want to go a little ways back, let's go back to say the 70s and 80s. People working back then, they weren't using computers. They weren't using a lot of the technology that we're using today. And it wasn't a situation where all of a sudden we brought computers into the workplace and it's like, oh, well, all of you people who have never seen computers before, we're just gonna pay you to stay home. Well, that of course didn't happen. They learned how to use computers, and a lot of jobs opened up. And especially, here's a fun thing: people who knew how to use the computers. One job thing that opened up was them teaching the other people how to make computers. The same thing with AI. Like right now, it's not that AI is going to phase you out. But if you learn AI, and if you know how to use AI, and if AI can become an assistant for you, that's going to be a huge advantage moving forward. So it's just one of those things to sort of keep in line. So let's see. YouTube was not a job that long ago. No, it wasn't. I mean, technically, YouTube is not. For most people, YouTube is not a job even now. I mean, YouTube, you go into YouTube and your first year, you're not going to make a penny. You're going to put in all the time. And here's the thing: it could be much longer than a year, because you need to do the work to get noticed. You need to do the work to build up subscribers and to get that like button all hit and turned blue. I like how I sneaked that in there. Anyway, you have to take the time. And if you, let's say, for example, if you don't have the finances to be able to support yourself to do YouTube full time during that time, it can take longer. So if you're in a situation where you can maybe do one video a week on the weekends, you're probably not going to get as fast of a traction as somebody who has that ability to do 2-3 videos, throw in a live stream and a few other things. So there's, an interesting thing. And even then, once you hit to a place where you finally start getting paid on YouTube, you don't get paid a lot for a long time. I've been doing YouTube for, more than 2 years. Well, not that much more than 2 years, just past 2 years, because I think my 2-year anniversary was back in September. So I've been doing YouTube for just over 2 years. And as it is now, I make about $150 a month at this point. But my time is an investment. Everything I'm putting in is an investment as I keep building and building. And as more and more people, come. Like a year ago, my live streams would have had half as many people as what there are here today. So, it does build. It takes time. Some people may build really fast if they have that sort of that explosive video. For me, I mean, I had one viral to my channel, and that was actually that was my OAS video, which is, to me, strange. It still gets a lot of hits even now. It's I think it's up around 12,000 now or something like that. It's just crazy how many people have watched that video. But and I don't even think it's a great video. It's a good video, but it's not a great video. I've made other retirement videos that I think are much better, but they've just never sort of followed that same thing. So we'll have to sort of look at it that way. All right, let's see. Jonathan says banana bread forever, and 9 follows it up with damn right. Yeah, absolutely. Gotta love the banana bread. Thoughts about uranium stocks? They've been flying, but I heard mining CEOs are diluting shares and owning U.UN is better than mining stocks. I think uranium, there is going to be an increased demand for it. As we start moving more and more away from fossil fuels, you're going to see nuclear power becoming more and more stressed, especially when you have a situation now with the continuing war in Ukraine. There's a lot of energy issues in Europe, and they are looking at even smaller scale nuclear plants, power plants. So I think uranium definitely is something to watch. Now I haven't paid a lot of attention to U.UN, so it's kind of interesting. I'd have to take a gander at that before I can say it's better than mining stocks. But right now, there are a lot of mining stocks that are still struggling, and I'm bullish on the mining sector, but it's kind of letting me down a little bit. So it might be. I'd have to look though. Chad says, "Haha, cold here. Thanks for the chuckles." Oh dear, yeah, yeah. It's kind of well. We've had some cold days here in Ontario as well. So I think around the snow belt, they're supposed to be looking at getting a whole bunch of snow coming up this week or so. So yikes. Let's see here. Ooh, how did I somehow jumped ahead? Chad says, Vic Vin, Ontario, Saskatchewan. I know for a fact going nuclear, small reactors throughout. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, and I own Way F. Nice. Um, yeah. I try to invest in the whole alphabet, but hey, if you've got the market on the app, I don't know what you're saying. I'm just sort of throwing something out there just to be kind of funny. Um, look at this. Look at the CCO ticker. Let's see here. CCO. I'm just gonna pull that up here. Whoa. CCO. It's trying to. Oh, okay, so Cameco. Now pull this up. Oh, it's got some nice growth on it. Absolutely. So this is a stock that back around the time of the pandemic, it was around $11 and it's up to $61. Not a bad growth at all. Let's see. And they of course are a uranium producer. So that is a company that absolutely. So CCO, if you're interested in uranium, there we go. If you're interested in uranium, that is definitely one to take a look at. And I just pulled that up. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It'll be nice too. With the live streams in December, we're not going to have this whole thing on the side here, the whole this week thing. That can be gone. And we can also I'm looking at bringing up some different charts and stuff to sort of help with the close. So I'm kind of working on that to see what I'm going to bring up, but that's going to be really, really good. All right. So Ian says, I own way too much BHP. I have been reinvesting the dividends in BNS. Oh, BNS, it's hard not to beat them, right? Because they're going to eventually pick back their value. And right now the yield is just absolutely great. Let's see. Veason says, Chad, Saskatchewan is addicted to cheap coal. They can't quit. Well, I think it's a point where, yeah, I think everybody's going to eventually have to quit on the coal. It's just, yeah, coal is pretty much one of the dirtiest of all of the fossil fuels out there. So we'll have to see. And I don't know a lot about coal, Saskatchewan's addiction to cheap coal, but I think they will have to get rid of it eventually. Do you think the market will bottom down further, maybe another 20 to 30% before the bull run starts next year? That's a good question. So what I'm seeing right now is we've got tax loss harvesting coming up next. So as we move into December, you're going to get a little bit of red. So that's going to be that tax loss harvesting. We should be seeing that. There's also a couple of catalysts as well with like the GDP, things like that. So there could be a couple of really bad days. But for the most part, once that is finished, the tax loss harvesting, so once we get towards the 24th of December, that's when the Santa Claus rally would begin. And I do think we're going to see a Santa Claus rally this year. And I think a lot of economists are kind of agreeing on that. So that'll take us into January. But will we see another drop at that point? I think it really depends on what is going to happen with these markets. Right now, everything has been really strong. Um, we may slide into a recession in Canada. If we do, it'll be really, really mild. And I almost have this feeling that they're going to do everything they can to not call the recession. So we may have a technical recession, but I don't think they're going to officially call it. That's the feeling I'm getting. And we'll have to sort of see how the economy is able to handle. And we're at a point too now where governments, I think, just don't want to see any kind of a long-term recession. And I think they have a lot of tools, even though they're not the greatest. And even though it's a situation of somebody has to pay the bill down the road, but everybody just keeps kicking it. And how far can they keep kicking it? We don't know if there's a limit to that. It feels like there should be, but I think for especially the government that we have currently in office, I think if it's a situation where it's like let's just print more money, opposed to having a recession, I think they'll do it. I think they'll find a way to just not call it. So we'll have to sort of see with that. All right, and let's see here. Do you think TOI.V could have another run up? Well, that's a good question. Let me just take a look and see where they are right now. Let's see here. TOI. Topicus. All right, it's taking its good old time to pull things up here. So yeah, Topicus at one point had this very beautiful run, 2020 up to 2021. Now they also after they cratered during the bear market, they have recovered quite a bit. So back to 107. So do I think they can come back up again? Yeah, I think they can. I just don't know. I don't know what the time frame on that will be. But I think they certainly can. I mean, look at Shopify. Look at kind of the situation they had. They fell so much, and now they have been just absolutely owning it. Now, a big part of Shopify though is Amazon. Now that Amazon's a partner, opposed to being a competitor, that has helped them out, I think, big time. Now, Vicent likes LMN over TOI. Okay, fair enough. And Ian, I have worked in coal power plants. Coal is way harder to use than natural gas. All right. Very good eyes, Wayne. Yes, that is a Lego Christmas tree behind me. So right above my shoulder there, that is a Lego Christmas tree. So yeah, I moved it. A funny thing is I moved it into the frame just, to have some things. Now I have a set of Christmas lights that I'm going to do something on the back wall with. I haven't figured it out yet. So I want to get that done before next week. So before next Sunday, there'll be a lot more lights and stuff. Hopefully it won't be too, I'll have to do something muted because I don't want it to be kind of like, have people walk away with their eyes burning because there were so many lights coming out. All right, and let's see here. Chad says, really? Then why do we get thermal and building nuclear here? Then you have some more research. Okay. The argument over coal versus nuclear. But yeah, I agree that nuclear is the way to go. And I think it's probably one of the cleanest. People worry a lot about nuclear waste, but it's a lot easier to handle and deal with nuclear waste opposed to stuff that's just pumping straight into the atmosphere and affecting everybody. All right. And Chad says, and we ship our coal to China. It comes from a cool drag out just south of Estevan. It's where the coal drag is. Okay, perfect. And Ontario with hydroelectric has been benefiting from nuclear. Yeah, there's been talk in Ontario of definitely building a lot of these smaller nuclear facilities, and it makes sense. It makes sense. There's also a lot of really interesting innovations. I was actually watching this new form of wind farm where it uses it doesn't use giant wind turbines the way the big white ones with all the the wind things. I don't know what you call those things. Um, Wind fan, something like that. But what is interesting is that they have this thing where it's a bunch of paddles in a big kind of what would you call it? An oolong, sort of like a racetrack shape, and it can apparently generate a lot more power for a lot less money and a lot less setup. So there's some really interesting if this technology takes off, and I wish I had written down what it was, but there's definitely some really good stuff on the horizon when it comes to some of this stuff. All right. Let's see here. Chad says Manitoba is 98% hydroelectric, 2% is backup diesel generators. All right. And Quebec is laughing at us all. Maybe, maybe. And Enid, agree with you 100%. Printing money is not a solution, but a Band-Aid. And even then, it's a Band-Aid with some salt on it because it hurts a little bit. Chad says, and how is nuclear cleaner power? What does one do with the spent cooling rods? Are they hot for 100 plus years? It depends. There is, and this is something I was watching. Dear banana bread, I should have paid more attention to it. But I know there's this there is a nuclear technology with these smaller ones that are reusable to a certain extent. So it's really, yeah, I don't have enough information to talk on it. But I have read some really interesting stuff. So I think there's some interesting advancements. And apparently, and this is what I remember, is that this newer, it's not even a newer, it was designed around the same time. It's just that it couldn't be the design that it required was sort of passed down and everybody went with a different direction in North America. But there is a way that you can reuse it. I have seen it. I just don't know a lot about it, unfortunately. I wish I could find. I have to find that video. I found this on the web. Hi. My watch wanted to get in. 9 says for your national bank brokerage, do you use a phone app or their website? I use their website. Because I do my trading in the office, so I got a lot of monitors here that I can that I use. So I do use their website. I've not even tried the app, so I don't know whether the app is super friendly or not. But I should really try the app one of these days. Let's see. Nuclear waste can be processed for future use. It's super. Yeah, that's exactly what I was sort of saying. It is something that can be reused depending on the way you have it set up. And Ian says nuclear is not as scary as people think. Also, you should do another deep dive in Bank of Nova Scotia. I just recently, it wasn't that long ago that I did a deep dive on Bank of Nova Scotia, but I mean, I will definitely do another one, just not probably right away. But with all of the banks dropping out earnings, we can certainly look at maybe doing a video just covering the earnings reports on these banks that are coming out this week. That I think would be kind of cool. All right. Okay. Well, out the reactors in your backyard then, and now you're talking nuclear fusion or fission. Put them in the backyards. Yeah. Exactly. Do you think rental prices will fall? The answer to that, no. No, not right now. Part of the reason for that is we just have it's all about supply and demand. As long as this demand stays high, and right now with the amount of immigration that we've had, it's going to stay high for a while, and we're not building things fast enough to alleviate that. So until we get some houses built, until we get some residential rental units built, get that all up and running, I think rents are going to stay up for a little while. Lisa says, I use National Bank app and it's fine. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Yeah, see, like I said, I haven't tried it. It's actually funny. There's been a couple of times that I've been away and I had some trades I wanted to look in on, like swing trades. So I pulled it up on my phone a few times, but I didn't actually use their app. I just pulled it up through Safari and went directly to the website and it said, "Oh, you should use your app. I see you're on your phone." But I'm like, nope, nope. I know exactly what I want to do. I just want to do a couple little things. I just want to put in a limit sell on this one stock. So, but yeah, it would be interesting. Let's see. Also, I would like to see a deep dive on Enbridge. I would like to average down. Enbridge is one of my biggest losers currently. Yikes. Yes, Enbridge has, I mean, right now getting into Enbridge, they have a fantastic looking dividend, but they have suffered quite a bit. I can't remember when I did I know I did one fairly. I think I did an Enbridge this year, but that's the thing. As we move into next year, I'm going to start looking at which ones it's time to do a redive on because, technically things change every quarter when you get new financials out. So I would like a deep dive in Parkland Fuel, PKI. Okay. So guys, keep in mind, we vote on these deep dives. So if you want a company, want me to look at a specific company, be sure to leave it in comments. Not so much in the feed here because, this goes by and I'm not going to go digging through a feed afterwards to try to pull up everything. But if you go to the community tab, anything in the community tab, you can leave a comment on it. I'll take it. I'll put it into the pool that I pull from. So I think that works really, really well. Now, so I'll pull this up here now because I just mentioned this now. Let me just write these couple ones down for you guys. My deep dive cool pool. All right, I'm putting in PKI, BNS, and Enbridge. There we go. I put those three into the pool. So they will come up for a vote eventually as I work my way through these. Lisa says, I use the app on my laptop. And let's see, National Bank brokerage versus Wealthsimple. I don't understand why anyone pays trading fees. National Bank has commission-free. They're the only of the big six that has commission-free trading, so you're not paying commission fees. I like both. It's just for me, I find that the National Bank brokerage, it is just a little bit easier to use when it comes to making trades faster. I find it a little bit faster than Wealthsimple. One of the things I really like about it as well is when I pull up my sell order on National Bank, the prices in the sell order are up to date, completely to the second. So I can just update it every couple of seconds and watch the price change. So I don't have to deal with that 15-minute lag that you find with a lot of things. So that's, to me, has been one of the things. Just ease of use has pulled me there. But I do love Wealthsimple. I think Wealthsimple is awesome. If you've got a portfolio more than 100,000, and I think Wealthsimple then does provide up-to-date prices because it gives you the whole pro for free at that point. But I mean, I like both, but National Bank has just been the one I've been using for my trading. So I certainly like just the way I can trade on it nice and fast. Let's see. Lisa says, sometimes I buy stocks at work on my phone at lunchtime. Awesome. Absolutely. Yeah, you're having a bad day at work, just go in and buy yourself a stock that makes you happy. And then the afternoon will hopefully be a little bit better. See, ENB is over leveraged and their dividend payout is not sustainable. That is true. That is, I think I mentioned that in sustainability in the last deep dive I did on them. So there's definitely things that Enbridge is going to need to do to get their fundamentals back in line. And there's a lot of companies in that same boat. And the problem is a lot of these are over leveraged with tons of debt. And that sort of is a problem all on its own with higher interest rates. Especially, you get a lot of companies who, when they were told, just like everybody else, that the interest rates were going to stay low for a long time, some companies did take on a lot more debt during that time frame, thinking that was going to be the case. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't the case as inflation came along. And so, yeah, I think that's burnt a lot of people, a lot of companies. But the way I look at it is when I'm looking at a company with high debt, I need to know what they're doing with the debt. Are they using the debt to expand? If they're expanding with the debt, sometimes that's not so bad. But when their debt is getting higher and higher, because they're using it to pay dividends and just run their basics, then I get a little more concerned. I also like to take a look and see how that debt is changing. So if a debt is getting lower over time, then I'm like, okay, well, at least they're working on pulling that debt down. But when a debt's going in the opposite direction and getting higher, so their debt to equity ratio is getting higher as they go along, then I get a little bit more concerned because I want to know what is happening. So you take, for example, right now, Dollar is a great example. I keep using them. I think actually I use them as an example in Tuesday's video as well. They have a crazy amount of debt, but they're also having a crazy amount of expansion. So when I look at things that way and I look at the rest of their fundamentals, I'm like, okay, everything does look great. This debt is out of control. As a result, though, it's funny. Sometimes if you have a really, if you have a really high debt, it can also mess up your ROE, and their ROE is out of control too. Well, it's not out of control. It's really high. It looks great. If they had an ROE, over 100 and didn't have that lot of debt, I would be like, I'd be all in. Absolutely. So, I keep that all in. I keep that in mind anyway. Yeah, BCE, similar situation. Ian, I'm going to spam your videos with deep dive requests now. Well, that's where you got to put them. You got to put them. You just got to have some patience. And here's the thing, because I've gone with this whole everybody can vote. If people don't vote your request, it doesn't happen. Unless it's a situation. There's occasionally, every so often, I will do a deep dive without going through the vote, only because it's like, okay, this is something that just needs to get done. And the company is awesome. But for the most part, I try to do the vote as much as possible because I want to give you guys what you guys want to see, not what I think you guys want to see. All right. And let's see here. Look what happened to AQN. Yeah, look at that. That was never good. Let's see. Questrade charges $5 for buying individual stocks. I'm not sure. I don't know what they charge. I do know that they do charge a commission. I thought it might be higher than that. For some reason, $10 pops into my head, but I have not used Questrade, so I don't know. Wealthsimple is free to buy and sell. Yeah, absolutely. And POW owns them. So Power Corporation of Canada, they do have the biggest investing stake within Wealthsimple. So it's like they own them. It's no, I mean, Wealthsimple is a great, and Wealthsimple just also released an equity platform that you can actually purchase in some equity. I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it's one of these equity asset things. But you have to have $100,000 in your account to be able to take advantage of it. So I looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I wasn't really that interested in it. Let's see. Moomoo is a new trading app, cheap US trading, but they have some sneaky fees. Everybody's going to have their fees, absolutely. And it's one of the nice things, like with National Bank as well. I don't have to pay extra for a US account. When I set it up, I said, yeah, I want US for all of these as well. And all I pay is the transfer fees for the most part. But there might be some hidden fees in there. And to me, it's a situation where if you're in a situation that you want a US account, well, you shouldn't be moving things from your US to your Canadian, your money back and forth a lot. Just put a lump sum over in your US, pay whatever fees they're going to charge you that one time. And then you've got that, you've got your nest egg in your US account that you can play with. All right. Ian says, ENB scares me and I don't want to throw good money after bad. If I want to break even on it, adding more would make it easier. Understandable. Yeah, I can understand. ENB, so Enbridge is definitely, there's things that scare me about it as well. But at the same time, like I think they're going to be fine long term, but I think there's going to be a lot of pain to get there. And if you're getting them for the dividend, there's no guarantee that dividend is going to survive. Because if I were running Enbridge, I would cut the dividend, to be honest, and focus that money on rebuilding and taking care of my fundamentals, getting my debt down, opposed to paying people out. But you also have to realize that when you cut a dividend, then you're in a situation where people start bailing. They start selling, which can impact your overall share value. And so you want to be a little bit careful, but at the same time, sometimes you have to do the unpopular thing for the overall health of a company. Let's see here. Oh, we were right there. All right. Oh, Phil B's in the house. Hey, Phil B. It's good to see you. Enbridge is a high yield trap. The debt increased way more than the revenue growth, which in return, their dividend growth has taken a big hit compared to a decade ago. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of high dividend traps because I mean, there are people out there that's their game. It's like, okay, show me point me in the direction of the highest dividends possible. I'm going all in. And I'm not saying that's bad. It really depends on what you're doing and what your purpose of your portfolio is. So, for example, if you're retired and your purpose of your investing is not to really be growing your stocks, you don't care if they grow. You just want that passive income. In those situations, you're going to approach a stock a lot differently than somebody who's like, okay, I want the most money possible. In which case, if you want the most money possible, then your total return investing is the where to be because that simply uses math to say, okay, if your share growth plus your dividend growth is equal to 25%, well, that's better than somebody who's going to give you a 15% dividend. It's better, but and here's the thing, people who go with the total return, sometimes they're sort of in that mindset where, okay, well, I can never sell any of this. I'm only going to get that 3% dividend or that 1% dividend. In a case like that, you kind of have to put yourself in the mindset to say, okay, well, I can take profits if I need them because you can. And sometimes it makes sense to take profits, especially if you get a situation where you have a crazy growth spurt. Now, keep in mind, when you do take profits in your TFSA, you have that 30-day rule. So that's something to always keep in mind. So if your stock does really, really good and you're thinking, okay, well, I know it's due for a correction, so I'm going to sell off a little chunk of it. Just know you can't buy them back for 30 days. Otherwise, you could get flagged for day trading in your TFSA. And that's something you don't want to have happen. It's not like, and somebody once said to me, oh, well, yeah, I don't want to go to jail or anything. I'm like, no, you don't go to jail for something like that. What happens is they'll look at it and they'll say, okay, well, yeah, that's day trading. So we're going to make you pay capital gains on this. And, they can sometimes, but the problem is when they start looking, then it causes problems for you right across the board. So you don't even want this. You don't want an audit under any circumstances if you can avoid it. So 9 says, that's why I buy VDY. The ETF can kick out bad stocks if they go bad. Yeah, that is an advantage of an ETF. An ETF, I mean, you are paying a management fee. So when you're looking at your ETFs, you want to pay attention to that. I mean, you want to try to get as low of a management fee as possible. But at the same time, you still want a good ETF. And I do like the Vanguard ETFs. I think they're really well managed. Chad says, yes, but at the same time, they're the biggest natural gas movers and own the biggest pipeline. I agree. Dividend trap. Yeah, they're definitely a dividend trap for sure. Let's grab some. So, and that's one of those things. And people fall into it. I know when I first started investing, there was nothing better than getting dividends. And I would chase some of the higher ones. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's just get this all in. But once you start getting into that whole total return mindset, then you start realizing, oh, wow, it's the people who make the money are not so much those people out chasing the dividends. It's those people who are looking for those stocks that between dividends and growth are providing the biggest returns overall. Like right now, I think one of the biggest stocks in my portfolio that has brought in some of the biggest returns has been some of the Hammond stocks, and they have very small dividends. Let's see. I will have to watch your other ENB deep dives after this. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's, I don't know if I might have 2, but look for the most recent one, of course. Let's see. Dividend Stocks Rocks has a good deep dive into, okay, there we go. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, especially, it's one of these funny things. Like, I have no problem if somebody has a deep dive out that I haven't done. I have no problem sending you over to their channel to check it out. Because it's kind of interesting. It's kind of the way it works with the whole Blossom thing too. We have that opportunity to really collaborate in different ways. And there's going to be some really interesting stuff coming up in 2024 with Blossom. So definitely something to check out if you haven't checked out yet. Wayne says QT charges $5.30 to buy 100 shares and $5.30 to sell 100. The price moves up at higher amounts. They have an excellent trading platform. Level 1 provides real-time quotes. Okay. So there we go. Quest Trade. So they're charging $5.30 to buy 100 shares. So that's not too bad. And even some of the banks, like take, for example, Scotiabank. I believe Scotiabank, their iTrade, I think it's called, they will let you buy ETFs without a commission. But I really like buying a lot of company stocks because I understand them. Not that I understand them more, it's that I do a lot of understanding with them, and I also know how to get some really bigger returns on them. So, I definitely would not want to lose and start paying those commissions. Chad says, I like free trading. Yeah, me too. Me too. Free buy with ETFs on Quest Trade. There we go. So Quest Trade also has free on the ETFs. Then you pay MER fees holding ETFs. Yeah, absolutely. Some of the management fees can sometimes be high. And sometimes you may look at a management fee and say, oh, it's just a 1% fee. It's not that bad. But you got to realize when you compound on those fees, sometimes it can add up. But, if you are a person who just does not want to be in your portfolio, you want to just buy the ETF sort of set and forget, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, you are going to lose a little bit of your return because, you got to pay the managers of the fund. But most times you don't even see it. So it's kind of all in the background anyway. Listen, what's the National Bank conversion fee? Wealthsimple is a dirty 1.5%. That's a good question. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. I know there is something in there. But like I said, what I do is I dump a chunk of cash into my US and then I just play in there, and I'm not worried about conversion fees because the US money stays in the US side. And that's the best way to do it because anytime any company where you convert Canada to US, you're going to pay, of course, the exchange rate, and there's almost always going to be a conversion fee of some sort. So I don't do it often. When I say often, I mean, do it in a lump sum. Make it count that way. Vinit's in the house. Hello, Vinit. Good to see you. Mario says, I don't know about a stock cutting its dividend. It took a massive drop. Yeah.
Set the alarm for when?
Oh, no, I don't want an alarm set. My watch is deciding that I want an alarm set, but I'm not sure about that. All right, Phil B says, problem with just getting a high yield is if they can't beat inflation in the long run, that too can hurt you. Enbridge is not there yet, but the risks are. Yeah, and this is the thing. When I look at Enbridge, while you've got that dividend, you're not right now getting a lot of growth. So total return wise, it's not in a good place. Whereas there are a lot of stocks out there where you can get a much better total return. And Chad saying CCO up 100% in a year. I looked at that CCO and let me tell you, yeah, it's one that it looks fantastic. It looks really, really good. So, and that is, of course, a uranium stock. So I have to look. I think I need to look at that one even a little bit harder. Put that on a watch list, or actually maybe even jump in on it a bit. So we'll have to see. Hilton, Saskatchewan, the purest uranium in the world. All right. Well, gotta like that. All right. Ian says, whoops, let's click this on. So in my TFSA, I sold 500 shares, and a week later, I bought back 510, made $600. How would I be taxed? Would the money I made on the 600 be taxable, or just the original 600? Well, here's the thing. If you get caught, so it's not like you can, like for now, I wouldn't really do anything. Chances are you probably won't get caught if you did it once or twice. And usually they're looking, and I think they're starting to use AI to look too, but they're looking for the bigger people who are doing this all the time. But you still want to be really careful about it. So if you sold 500 shares, you want to wait 30 days before you buy it back. You know, I'm not saying you're not going to get caught. If you were to get caught, okay, um, you made $600, so that would be $600. You would pay basically, it would basically work out to about $300 of income because capital gains is 50%. But that's how you would be taxed if they catch you. So it's not the 600, it's half of that. So it'd be 300. So it'd be considered capital gains. Unless the CRA, if you're doing it a lot and they catch you, they might make you pay more than capital gains. They could technically say that you're looking at business income. And if it were business income, then yeah, you would be looking at the full 600 because it really comes down to if you're behaving like a business to make money with stocks. So for example, the stuff I do in swing trading, that's business income. It's not capital gains. So I have to pay dollar for dollar tax wise. So just something to keep in mind. So you don't want to, as I mentioned before, and Nine's kind of reiterating it, if they audit you, you might get lucky. Best not to play around with that. Yeah, don't play around with it. If you want to do short-term trading, set it up in a non-registered account. Don't just don't just go crazy in your TFSA. Or if you really want to play around in a registered account, you can day trade in your RRSP without any issues. And the reason they let you do it in your RRSP is that every penny that you make in that RRSP, when you pull it out, is pulled out as income. So they get full taxes on you there. So they do not care if you do it in your RRSP. Chad says, "Ant buy, sell inside of your TFSA. Ian loves to wait 30 days. Yeah, wait the 30 days. And honestly, myself, I'll even wait 31 days just to make sure I don't accidentally screw it up. Let's see, use your password account or use your personal account or RRSP account. Yeah, exactly. And I know that now. Might have done it in the past. Yeah, and that's the thing. Here's what I would do. Just go on. Life is normal. Don't do it again. Hope you don't get audited. But if you get audited, they may make you pay a little more taxes. And let's see. Lisa says, I've tried finding out the conversion fee for National Bank and could not find info anywhere. I found it once, but that was a long time ago. Whoops, pull this up here. I did find it once. That was a long time ago, and it took me forever to find it. The information is out there, but I would have to take a gander. But I think it's pretty much in the same ballpark as Wealthsimple, I think. But I also think it depends on how much you're moving. If I remember correctly, with the Wealthsimple one or with the National Bank one, if you're moving larger sums, it's smaller. So, yeah, that does ring a bell. So, see, Questrade is worse at 2% currency fee unless you do a Norbit's Gambit. Yeah, so those of you who do not know about the Norbit's Gambit, I will refer you to do a search on Norbit's Gambit over on Canadian in a T-shirts channel. He has a excellent video on how to do the Norbit's Gambit. So definitely we'll put that out there because he's kind of I think out of most of the big Canadian YouTube financiers, he's the one I think that is most Questrade more than anybody else. Chad says, print more money, crypto will go higher. That is absolutely true. 9, is the 30-day wait for TFSA official? The CRA has not been clear on the day trading in a TFSA. I've seen it in their documentation somewhere, so I would definitely call it official. So yes. And Chad says yes. Let's see. Ian says, I have a few other accounts that aren't a TFSA. I do most of my trading in my non-registered. Perfect. Absolutely. Is that buying, selling the same company stocks or buy, sell 30 days in a general for any stocks? It's the same company. So if you sell, if you sell Enbridge tomorrow, don't buy Enbridge back for 30 days. Now you could sell Enbridge tomorrow and buy Tourmaline the next day. That's perfectly fine, just as long as it's not the same stock. How much is it for Wealth Simple? I think they said 1.5%. Same stock as far as I believe. Yeah, exactly. Can't Norbit Gambit in a TFSA, I'm guessing. Honestly, I don't know. I would, once again, Canadian in a t-shirt, check out that video. I think he breaks it down really, really well. And plus, if you leave him a comment, he's pretty good at getting back to the comments. If he doesn't, let me know, and then I'll go bug him to get an answer, because I can bug him. I don't mind bugging Adrian. Let's see. Chad says, well, simple, free to trade, or 1.5% fees to Canadian to USD. Yeah, exactly. All right. So what do we got coming up? Let's give me a second here. I'm just going to pull this up and see, because we got a whole bunch of interesting stuff, I think, coming up this week. All right. So on the channel, we have, whoops, there we go. All right. So, of course, I mentioned already that we do have the channel membership video coming up on Tuesday. And that's going to basically be how to approach fundamentals when determining which stocks to buy. So we're going to break down the fundamentals, talk a little bit about them as we go through it. Friday's video, December 1st, that's going to be the next one in the building a TFSA from scratch. So that's episode 5 of that. So that'll be coming out. And we'll have, of course, a live stream here again next week on the 3rd. And that is the first live stream of the month. So there'll be 5 free channel memberships going out next week. Then the following week, we got back to our regular schedule. But once we hit the week after that, that's when all of these live streams just start flying like crazy. We're going to do so many live streams. You'll think I'll probably need to pay some of you guys rent because I'll be in your house so much. So that's going to be really fantastic. We will have, of course, a channel membership live stream in addition to all of these other live streams. It's like that's going to be on the 14th of December. So the 14th of December, I actually do 2 live streams. I do the public live stream for everybody, with the market close, and then later that night I do the channel member live stream. So a 2 live stream day. Holy banana bread. Yeah, December looks pretty busy. Now, if you guys want to see all of this, just head over to Facebook and look for Mountain Finance. It's a private group. I will approve you right away. As soon as I see it. That way there, I keep a schedule. That way there, what's coming up and all of this. So I am still looking at getting a Discord set up. That's going to be a 2024 project. As I'm starting to look like, usually around the beginning of the year, I take a look at the channel. I figure out what's worked, what hasn't worked. And we come up with things that we can do. Exactly. Can be done in a TFSA. Jayang's here. I don't think I've seen you yet today. Do you have to hold for 30 days any stock bought in the TFSA? No, you do not have to hold them for 30 days. You just can't rebuy them if you sell them. So you can buy a stock tomorrow, sell it the next day, and then buy a different stock. Just you can't buy the same stock for 30 days. Thanks so much. All right. Thanks so much. Learned so much as usual. Awesome. That's what we're here for. Yeah, it's definitely good. And it's great. Like I've gone a little longer today because the last 2 weeks, on the live stream, it was like I had to get off at exactly 5 o'clock. So, I'm making up for it a little bit here today. Let's see. And if I sell and rebuy the same stock, yeah, exactly. Is DOL and ATD a buy at the current prices? I think they're both still going to go up. So they're what I call DCA stocks, like dollar cost average, because they're going to continue climbing right now. As long as the economy is not in super shape, both Dollarama and Alimentation Couche-Tard, they're both going to do really well, I think. Between the two of them, if I only could choose one, I probably would lean towards Alimentation Couche-Tard. Trying to play with French in my mouth doesn't work very well. And Chad says ATD does. Yeah, see, Dollarama does have a lot of debt. You got to keep that in mind. Now, I understand why they have debt. Um, and I think it's probably the debt they have now looks scarier than it really is because I know what they're doing. But I would definitely still say ATD is a really good choice. Nine says, thank you for the stream. Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of fun doing these. Chad says, hold both Circle K and Dollarama. Yeah, exactly. Well, Circle K is owned by Alimentation Couche-Tard, so it's still ATD. But yeah, pretty cool. Anyway, guys, I think this is about it. I'm getting a little bit hungry. I normally have supper, about 40 minutes ago on non days, but this is going to be fantastic. Get excited about this December schedule because I will tell you, we are going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be awesome, and I'm going to try to get a few things worked up for you guys to make it pretty darn cool. So until next week, anyway, guys, I'm going to be out of here for the moment. You guys have a fantastic week. Get your tree up if you haven't already, even if it's a Lego tree. Get something up. We'll have the holiday stuff coming. And next week, I'll try to have some lights up. I won't try. I will have some lights up behind me just to be a little bit more on the festive side. All right, everybody. Take care. We'll see you again very soon. Thank you all for coming.